Net Daily senior staff writer, Dr. Jerome Corsi, #1 best-selling author of The Abomination and Unfit for Command. What's the latest on the birther movement?
The whole issue of the birth certificate is one that President Obama should be able to solve tomorrow. I mean, let's assume President Obama is telling the truth and that he was born in Hawaii like he says he was. Well, what's the problem? All he has to do, President Obama, is call up the Hawaii Department of Health and say, release it. Release my long-form original birth certificate.
Why doesn't he do it? Because it'd be simple. It would pull the rug out from under a lot of people, maybe you included. It would make, of course, your position is not that he was born in Kenya or somewhere else. I think your position is, just show me where you were born, take away the doubts. Why do I have to prove a negative? Just release the information all presidents have released the last 40 years.
Well, that's right. At World News Daily, I'm a staff reporter. I'm an investigative reporter. I'm trying to find the truth. I don't have a theory I'm advancing as to where President Obama was born. I do know that when politicians hide documents, like long-form birth certificates, they're covering something up. I guess, Bill, when I was at Harvard, I should have taken the mind-reading course. You know, would have helped things. I could have like Karnak the Great ascertained where.
Well, you're the guy that went to Kenya, right, was arrested there.
Yeah.
By the Kenyan government, which is a Marxist government, because you went there to try to investigate this further. So you can't say all across America this evening that you believe he was born in Kenya. What is your, if someone would say to you tonight, Dr. Jerome Corsi, give me the headline of the birther movement, what does Dr. Corsi believe?
Well, first of all, I'd say we've now got 3 hospitals that deny that they can prove that President Obama was born there. The 2 in Hawaii that President Obama and his family have claimed he was born at, 2 different ones, Queens Medical Center and Kapiolani Medical Center, both say they will not authenticate that President Obama was born there. And now it's joined by a 3rd hospital, Coast Province General Hospital in Mombasa, told WorldNet Daily last week that they won't validate either that President Obama was born there.
Could he have been born at home?
Sure. That's a possibility.
Because Ann Dunham was like a revolutionary atheist. Maybe she thought, I'll have the kid at home.
And, you know, in Hawaii, this is the problem with the short-form certificate of live birth. In Hawaii in 1961, you could go in with, you know, some telephone bills and some address proof and say, look, my child was born in Hawaii, so make them a Hawaii citizen. And that would be sufficient, whether or not there was a hospital-generated long-form birth certificate.
And you ran a story about 3 weeks ago that Ann Dunham, the mother, went to the state of Washington to go to college 15 days after birth. And at that point, mothers with babies under 3 months could not travel.
Well, that typically was true. I mean, it was a very difficult time to get the baby on the airplane. And what my point in these stories, I ran a whole series of stories in WorldNet Daily. We've really done the definitive work on Ann Dunham's timeline.
Yes.
Because we wanted to prove, you know, that the official birth story that President Obama told in his autobiography, Dreams from My Father, was not the way it happened. The way the story was told by President Obama was that Mommy and Daddy met in this Russian class at the University of Hawaii. They fell in love. They got married when Mommy was pregnant for 3 months, and then the baby was born in August 61, and Mommy and Daddy stayed together until Barack Obama Sr. has to leave the islands to go to Hawaii, to go to Harvard, or go from Hawaii to Harvard, because Harvard did not give Barack Obama Sr. enough money to bring Mommy and child with him. The truth is that I can't find any proof that Barack Obama Sr. and Ann Dunham, the mother, ever lived together. Barack Obama Sr. always had his own pad, his own bachelor pad, near the university, which he kept throughout the entire time.
In fact, the address on the short-form birth certificate is not the valid address.
Well, it's the address for the grandparents.
Yeah.
Barack Obama Sr., I can't find any evidence ever lived there.
Is there any evidence that Obama actually went to Columbia University?
Well, yes, there's evidence of that.
Okay.
But except that we can't get the transcript. I guess the only evidence is, again, he says he was there. He shows up in New York City. But the point about Ann Dunham I really want to make before we leave this is 15 days after the baby is born, not only are Mommy and Daddy not living together, 15 days she leaves and is enrolled. I've got the transcripts from the University of Washington. Ann Dunham's in extension schools at the University of Washington, which were able to validate involved night courses. She's starting that 15 days after the baby is born. We've now got tapes of her friends. We found one. We'll be publishing it this week in WorldNet Daily from Susan Blake. It had been removed from the Internet, but one of her friends also documents 3 weeks after the baby was born. Ann Dunham was in Seattle, and Susan Blake was changing diapers, trying to teach Ann Dunham how to do it. So, Bill, the reality is the birth story is a lie that Mommy and Daddy stayed together until Barack Obama Sr. had to leave the islands to go to Harvard. Within 15 days of the baby being born, Ann Dunham leaves Hawaii, abandons the father. They never are together again. And she goes to Seattle, where she takes up, and she doesn't return to the islands until Barack Obama leaves.
Is that believable?
Yes, well, I mean, it's the reality. I've got the documentations. I got the street address records. I've got the university.
Well, she had to fly. She couldn't take a train, couldn't take a bus, couldn't take a car, and she couldn't take a boat.
Right. We don't have, the travel records from this 1961 are very difficult to get. We are not able to find the travel records. But, it puts in, you could register here another possibility. I mean, for birth locations, a lot of people on the Internet looking at our stories have said, well, maybe the baby was born in Canada. Now, that's another possibility. And again, Barack Obama Sr. could stop all of this.
Junior.
Barack Obama Jr., the president, could stop this by just releasing his long-form birth certificate.
Which has the hospital, the doctor, and it kind of is something that would, and then you could check that out. The hospitals could release the records, and it's done.
But see, there's a whole list of documents. This is an undocumented president. We talk about undocumented immigrants. Well, this is an undocumented president. We don't have the birth certificate for President Obama. We don't have the school records. We don't have the passport records. We have the records from Indonesia that I got when I did the Abomination. We published them in WorldNet Daily. When President Obama was in school in Indonesia, he was registered as an Indonesian citizen and a Muslim in those schools. Now, we don't know whether the father just said that because we can't see if there were adoption records.
And he got to Pakistan in 1981. He would have had gone there in an Indonesian passport as an Indonesian citizen.
He could very well. Again, we can't get the
Can't get those either.
Can't get those records, the passport records either. And WorldNet Daily is committed that if we have an undocumented president in the White House now, President Obama will not be able to run for re-election undocumented because we're going to continue to press for all these documents on get the facts in front of the people of the birth certificate, the radical education at Columbia and at Occidental. We want to see all of the State Department records to know if President Obama ever did get adopted, if he had a passport from Indonesia in which he used to go to
You can't get
Pakistan.
that, right?
Can't get that. Can't get the school records from Occidental. He was rooming with these Pakistani foreign exchange students. Did President Obama register at Occidental and Columbia as a foreign exchange student? Who are the people who recommended President Obama? We've had very many radical influences that have suggested they were the ones behind,
including Frank Marshall, right?
Frank Marshall Davis, his mentor. It's written about in Dreams from My Father, another journalist, African-American journalist and poet from Chicago, a member of the Communist Party who retired in Hawaii, and Barack Obama Jr. President Obama in his autobiography, Dreams from My Father, talks about how Frank Marshall Davis was his mentor going to high school.
And this is, again, an avowed communist.
Avowed communist.
And this was so the spiritual leader is Jeremiah Wright, and the advisor growing up in high school is Frank Marshall Davis.
I've got Frank Marshall Davis's entire FBI file going back into the 30s and 40s when he was an avowed member of the Communist Party, moved to Hawaii in order to promote the Communist Party. And Barack Obama, in Dreams from My Father, is talking about when he has problems at home and needs to get advice, he goes to see Frank Marshall Davis. They read the communist poetry, they drink whiskey and smoke marijuana. High school.
One question. August the 9th, 1961, there's a posting of a birth in the Honolulu Advertiser newspaper. Does that give legitimacy to the birth 5 days earlier or not?
No, what that does is that was generated most likely by the Department of Health in Hawaii. So let's just say someone went in and registered the birth. The grandparents went in. They had the birth address that's listed in that announcement. And they say, oh, by the way, our grandson was just born in Hawaii, so we want him to have a birth certificate. Well, that would trigger the birth announcement. And, of course, at all times, certainly 2 years after statehood, Hawaii was making a big effort to get a lot of people in Hawaii registered as Hawaii born.
Right.
You didn't have to have a hospital or other proof that you were actually born.
So that's not dispositive of the issue.
No, it's not. It's just it most likely was generated automatically because someone went in and registered the birth. We don't know who went in and registered the birth. We can't see the long form birth certificate to know if there was a hospital involved.
Yeah.
We've got 3 hospitals now, WorldNet Daily, that will not authenticate President Obama.
Well,
neither hospital in Hawaii and the one in Kenya, none of them will validate that President Obama
So whether he was born in Hawaii, Indonesia, Canada, or Kenya is something that could be clearly dispelled by simply doing what every American president has done, which is release the birth certificate, which allows the foundational information to check out. It's all over. It's done. You move on to Van Jones and other issues.
That's right. President Obama should show the American people, it's like, where's the beef? Why is President Obama hiding his long-form birth certificate? Why is this top secret? What's the big deal? And if President Obama will release that document and other documents he's hiding, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, to hide, why is President Obama afraid for the American people to see the documents, who will tell the American people who we really are.
California lawsuits have been filed to have Occidental College release his records, and he's spending serious money in California to stop it. Lawsuits have been filed also in Philadelphia and in New York, and he's spending serious money to stop it. Why not give a general release, which presidents have done since Kennedy, and we have none of his medical records either. He released a one-page summary of about 4 paragraphs that I have a copy of, released no medical records, and nobody held him to account in the media for that. We have about 30 seconds, Doctor.
No law school records, no records from his law firm when he did work for Tony Rezko's in federal prison. So just kind of concluding, what WorldNet Daily is pressing for is to see the truth. We want to see the documents behind who President Obama really is.